a fast learner?
I'm an incredibly fast learner.
Okay.
I do love to learn. So.
Okay, there's time.
Yes.
Also, a lot of politicians, and this is from what I learned through my various experiences in politics. Of course, I always believed that winning is not the intention.
Right.
It's what you say, what you can say when you're in that platform, and
Absolutely.
who hears it and what they get from it. So you're like the planter.
Exactly.
So you're basically putting your trust in something else, something greater than yourself.
Absolutely.
But let me get to this point. A lot of politicians, when they go into the field, like you've announced your candidacy, first one out, okay? And I'm hearing rumors of others. Mm-hmm. You are probably being already approached by, elitists, special interests, various corporations and lobbyists out there wanting you to go out to dinner with them and talk about issues, just innocently, or they want to fund you, and you've got people out there saying, well, take the money no matter what, because you got to have the money to win a campaign. You're going to need this much money, so take the money Now, are these, okay, I'm not going to mention any politicians, no governors. I'm going to say that when they go in and they take an oath to the office, they're taking an oath to a written constitution, not the whims or fancies of the lobbyists and the special interest groups and the people who want you to spoon feed them the things that they want. Mm-hmm. And the worst people are attorneys, I'm sorry, and there's floods of them in there. And they're guarding their legal, what I call a legal British style usurpation of our government. Mm-hmm. And are you going to be one of those?
No.
Okay.
So one of the things how do I want to say this? One of the things about me is that I am not easily controlled. I am not easily swayed. I'm also not easily bullied. Just a little side note about me personally, I was bullied my entire life as a younger person.
Do you have a lot of brothers, or
no,
just school?
Just school. Yeah, just school. No, I only have a younger sister, actually. So
okay.
But yeah, I was actually bullied a lot. I'm a natural redhead. That was always a good thing to bully someone on.
Oh my!
And I know it's very weird, but I think it's interesting because that also taught me a lot. So I'm not easily bullied. I'm very sound in who I am and what I stand for, and I'm not easily swayed into something else. I speak up for truth. If I know that it's the truth, even if it's something hard to say, I am fine with saying it.
Okay.
And I don't shy away from that just because I think somebody might be upset with me or not want to hear that truth or be uncomfortable with that truth. The truth is the truth, and we need to be standing up for it. And so as long as I know 100% that what I'm saying is the truth, I will say it. And I'm not afraid of that. So as far as, big money groups and lobbyists and those kind of things, I'm a person that scares them. Because they already know that they cannot control me. And I, on purpose, do not want to necessarily involve myself with any of them. I do have two camps of people. One camp says take the money and the other camp says don't take the money. And I'm more with the don't take the money camp. So because even if I have no intention of doing what they say, if I take the money, then the appearance of that is that I am doing what they're saying. And that's just not who I am. I think that the voices of the people of the state have been minimized and squashed to the point that we are seeing a level of frustration. It's why in the Republican Party we have seen voter turnout plummet, because nobody feels like they have the options that are good options. They don't feel like their voice matters. They feel like, well, if I go in there, I just have to vote R all the way down, whether I like them or not. And I think that we're reaching that tipping point where people are sick and tired of that. And so their choices are to not vote at all, which is what we're seeing in great numbers, or they're voting under almost protest. Some are even switching sides to vote. And I believe that's part of what we saw in the last governor's election, where people did not like the candidate that they ended up with. And we saw people switching from our party and voting for Kelly. And historically, if you actually look at the last 20 years, you will see that anytime we have ran a Republican male against a Democratic female, we have lost. And as much as we don't want to talk about identity politics, it's kind of getting into a different topic, but as much as we don't like to say that the Republican Party has identity politics involved with it, there is a group of people that do in fact vote that way. And so if they do not like the candidate that they are seeing and they see anything they like about the other side, they will go that direction, unfortunately. And so when you look historically over the last 20 years, Brownback was the only Republican governor we've had in the last 20 years, and he did not run against a female Democrat. And so one of the things that I think is happening and that we are seeing is people are done with the career politicians, because what they've seen over the last 20 years is people, that group of people saying they're going to do something for us and then not following through and not really doing it. And that's because they've been listening to that big money group, and they kind of do this appeasing thing. They do just enough to make us feel a little warm and fuzzy about them being there. And by the way, let me preface this with, there are some amazing legislators in our government. I know a lot of them personally. They work very, very hard. But then there's everybody else. Mm-hmm. And the everybody else is the problem. And so they appease, and then they play the blame game. And they blame our governor. They blame the Democrats. They blame the moderates. They blame the broken supermajority. And then they say, but next time, I'm going to get this done for you. Vote for me again. Yeah. And so we get to the next time. And I'll use this last election as a prime case in point. If you were listening and paying attention at all you heard was, we are going to defeat this, and we're going to have this supermajority. We're going to be able to knock anything that Kelly, vetoes. We're going to be able to knock it back to her, and we're going to pass everything. And they even were saying it on election night, because I was at a certain person's election party. And it was said there, we've done it. We have a great supermajority. We're going to be able to accomplish all these things. And do you know, not even 24 hours later, what I was hearing from these same people that I spend entirely too much time with is, oh, well, we may not be able to get it done this time with this. Yes, we've got the supermajority, but it might be harder than we think it was going to be. And the reason for that is that if they solved the problems, they would no longer be necessary. And they are not going to sacrifice their money and power to solve the problems for the state and actually make a difference for the people that live here. So that is the main reason, number one, that I did not want to run as a representative or a senator to get to the point of governor, because then I would just be like them. I would be that career politician. And that's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to do what our government was set up to do, which is it was set up so the farmer could come in from the fields, from his business, and serve his term and then go back to his business. And I am closer to retirement than I am to starting a new career. And I do not want to start a new career, but I do want to serve. And so being able to serve the people of this state, and in 4 or 8 years, I am well aware that I will not accomplish everything that needs to be accomplished for this state. However, I can set the tone and I can set the pace and I can put things into action that others behind me will come and continue. And that is my great hope for this state, is to be able to take what the people of this state want, give them their voice back, and to move this state forward into a more prosperous time.
Okay. Yeah, so in a nutshell, the grand old party really doesn't work anymore, does it?
No.
We need to change from within and make it better.
Yes. So you'll hear a lot about how our Republican Party is divided and splintered, and we have all these issues. And there's a script out there that's being utilized, and I've heard it multiple times. That's why I know it's an actual script. And the script is, we need to come together and unify and pick our candidates and present one in the primary. And what that does is that effectively takes away the voice of the people. We're presenting them with one option, and that may not be the option that they want. And again, that is defeating what our elections are set up to do, where we get a choice of who we want to serve us, who we want to represent us. And so I think this is going to be very controversial. I think division in our party is exactly what needs to be happening right now.
I agree with you.
Okay, because that is how we root out what should not be there. Yeah. And, I'm going to put in a plug for precinct people and people who are serving in the communities. I had no idea. I've never met my precinct person until the last couple months. And I won't say who she is. She's a lovely lady, but she'd never come to my door. I'd never talked to, and in all the time that I've been alive, no precinct person has ever come to my door, ever, in any community I've lived in. And we need to activate those people within our community to be that person that goes to their neighbors and talks to them and educates them on what is going on in their county, in their neighborhood, in their city, in their state. And we tend to focus more on national, and we forget about local and, state. And that really needs to be where our focus is as a community. And so from the top position, activating the precinct people down here at the local position, we can work together to clean out the middle. And that's what really needs to happen. You've heard the term drain the swamp. Well, the only way to drain it is to have both sides working at the same time in conjunction with each other to get that drain, to get the people that shouldn't be there out and put good, hardworking servants into those positions.
Right. So. Anything else you want to tell the audience out there about yourself? What makes you qualified? The best qualified person to be governor? Anything you want.
Well, okay. Thank you. I think for me, when, I want to talk to as many people in this state as possible and to be able to connect and hear what's important to you and your family and your community. I think what qualifies me the most is that I'm genuine. What you see is what you get. I'm going to, when I say I'm going to do something, that's what I'm going to do. I am unafraid of hard work. You can ask pretty much anybody who knows me. I'm probably the hardest working person they've ever met in their life. Some people ask me, when do I sleep? When do I ever go on vacation? The answer is not really. They're usually working vacations. And because I do own multiple businesses and I serve in my community, I work very hard. That's my heart, is to serve. And so being able to have that opportunity to serve an even larger group of people is an amazing thing to me. That would be just an honor and a gift to be able to have that opportunity to serve the state in that capacity. So, there's a lot of things over the next year and a half. I hope you'll follow me On social media, you can actually Google me and just say Stacy Rogers, Kansas, or Stacy Rogers, Wichita, and you're going to find every social media platform that I'm on, and follow me wherever I'm at. But one of the main things that I want to do over the next year and a half is really plug in a lot of those education pieces that maybe people aren't as aware of. I asked some questions early on when I started my page about the Supreme Court in Kansas, if people understood how that functioned and how we get those people on that court. And I was astounded. I didn't know either before this process. I didn't really understand how it came to be, what the process was. And I would say that the majority of Kansans also don't know that answer. And so to be able to educate on those pieces of our government that are not as well known is incredibly important, because that's how we get your voice out there. Once you know that something is not the way that it should be, your voice, you can stand up and be heard. I would also make this a how do I say this, cry of support, in that I'm just one voice and one opinion. Your opinion is the most important to me. But if we stay afraid of voicing our opinions, if I just stand up here and voice my opinion all day long, I'm just a voice in a vacuum. I'm screaming into a vacuum, and no one's going to really hear that as well. But when we start standing up together as citizens of this state and saying we've had enough, that is when real change will occur. So,
very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you just mentioned another word, the Kansas Supreme Court, which could be a whole nother podcast.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk about that.
Oh my gosh, those people. And ignorance, and I'm not saying that in a derogatory manner, but ignorance is the tool of evil.
Right.
I'm just going to say it. And this legal system that has usurped our state government and the U.S. general government has used our ignorance to defeat us, basically, and to turn everything on its head.
Absolutely.
I'm just going to mention the abortion issue. People are screaming, oh, this is an abortion state. Sorry, it isn't, because I've seen the statutes that are pursuant to Section 1 of the Bill of Rights. And the statutes that restrict and prevent abortions from happening, easily for the institutions that actually will commit the abortion. We're not talking about the women.
Right.
We're talking about these institutions that benefit financially, is extremely strict. Don't let anybody tell you that Kansas is an abortion state. It is not. It's just that we have to have an executive that obeys the Constitution and those procedural statutes that will enforce those rights to the child.
Right.
So there's a lot of education that really needs to happen, and things aren't exactly what we're told they are.
No, I would agree.
So.
And there's a lot that we can do on the abortion front, but there are things that need to occur first for those things to be the most effective, and not further harm the protection of children. Yeah. And, that's, again, a bigger conversation for another day. But, and I am very much, I am pro all life, not just the unborn, but our children, our disabled, our elderly. Those are all very vulnerable pieces of our society that are targeted disproportionately to any other segment, and they deserve our protection. We could do a whole podcast on the transgender issue and some of the things that are going on there, where they have left. The state legislature is trying to get some stuff passed to protect children, where they have missed, and I've brought it to Dan Hawkins' attention. I brought it to Stephen Owen's attention. I brought it to Leo Delpergang's attention. So there are people that are aware of some of the issues. They have left the disabled community out of that conversation. Anyone who has and is under guardianship should not be allowed to make medical decisions like that, nor should their guardian. And they need to make sure that they're including all vulnerable people into that legislation. Yeah. So.
And remember the distinction out there that it's government has to protect their right to life.
Right.
We can't always protect a person's life, but they have to protect the right of everyone to that life.
That's correct. And to make a medical decision when you don't have full understanding of what the ramifications of that is a despicable thing that's happening right now. And so, So that's something that's very dear to my heart, protecting disabled people. I've watched that a lot with my child. He has somebody that will stand in the gap for him, but there are so many of his friends and people in that community that I've seen, left to their own devices, and they really don't have the mental capabilities to make those decisions. Wow. And they're being targeted and manipulated and groomed into those decisions. And it's heartbreaking to see some of those things happening. So
wow. Wasn't aware of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that to my attention.
Yeah.
Well, Stacy,
yes.
I really appreciate you coming in and having this talk. This is totally unscripted.
Yes.
I didn't know how this was going to turn out, and it really was educational for me.
Great.
And hopefully the Verity Seeker audience out there, hopefully it's going to grow this year. Yeah. We're kind of starting over again. Hopefully you'll get something out of this. And we'll keep in touch with Stacy Rogers, who is running for Kansas governor. And the election is in November. Well, actually, the primary is August. Of 2026, and then the general election in November.
Yes.
So when you're lesser known, you have to start 2 years in advance or a year and a half.
That's correct. And I'll say one more thing. And then
no, that's fine.
But I could be here all day. We could talk all day long. But
we'll tell them to wait.
A lot of, next week we have the inauguration of our president. And this is sometimes the time when people sit down and they say, well, we've done the job. We don't have to worry about this anymore. But really, this is the time when we need to get to work the most. And, historically, midterm elections are the hardest. The governor's elections are the hardest. People turn out in even smaller numbers to vote for their governor, which is not good. That's a very important position that just, needs to have that. That's what affects your state. So I would just challenge everyone to keep the pressure on their legislators, their current governor, our president, all of that. We need to keep that pressure on our local, county, state government, and to just keep working. There are things within my own county that I see people working very, very hard on, and they are very dedicated to. And but in other counties, they kind of, some of them kind of sit back, and I think the general population kind of sits back and says we don't have to worry about politics for a while. But really, it should be something that's on the forefront of our mind all the time. In what can we do to make this a better place to live? So
yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. Marxism and communism, they're relentless. They don't go to sleep. Okay, so we just need to get everything back on the rails.
Absolutely.
I think we'll do that. Yeah. Well, Stacy, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you for having me.
And enjoyed it very much. And on to the next event.
Next thing. Yes.
This is Verity Seeker. I'm your host, Mark Powles. Guest, Stacy Rogers for Kansas Governor. Thank you very much.